Hi everyone, it's Vicky here and welcome back to another mixed media project. Today I'm going for a mixed media tag and I'm starting by applying some volume paste over this lovely stencil. I'm working on a chipboard tag. This is quite thick and the color is craft as you can see. However, I will be using my acrylic paints to cover it up completely. So I'm starting by applying the volume paste and I'm doing that before adding the color because I want this texture to be quite subtle. I don't like to apply the design all over my background. I like to pick different areas as you can see here. So I'm going to make sure that this is dry before I move on to the next step. Now for the next step I'm going to play with acrylic paints. I have picked three colors, ivory, a green one as well as a yellowish one, and I'm going to use all three of them, blending them directly on top of my tag. Depending on the surface that you are working on, you might need to use a primer or a gesso, but since I'm working on a chipboard it is quite porous, so I have no problem with the acrylic paint sticking there. And you can see I'm going over the volume paste. This is completely dry by the way now. I am going to cover it up completely, but you will be able to still see the dimension that I got from stenciling, and at the end I'm going to use a standing block to bring that design more to life. However, it's not going to be very vibrant like super white on top of all those colors, just because I used that stencil before applying the colors. Also, I'm not really cleaning my brush in between those three colors that I'm using. I like to blend the colors directly on the tag and I go by the flow. I just take a look at how it is at the moment and decide if I need to add more of the ivory or more of the green, and I can always adjust the final look just by adding even more colors on top of it. Now I'm using my heat gun to make sure that this layer is completely dry. And I'm going to go ahead and play with some of my ribbons. These are my ribbons that come in all those different colors, white, silver and gold. I'm going with a golden typography for this one, and I'm going to add it at the background. This is going to give more interest at the background, it's going to give some visual texture. If you want, you can definitely use embossing along with embossing powder for that step, or even you can just go ahead and stamp. Just because I decided to go with golden over that background, it's not going to be very vibrant as you can see. It blends lovely with the colors and it adds a touch of shine. Remember, these letters are actually golden. And it's really hard to catch on camera that shine, but in real life it's really there. Also notice that I'm not just transferring the whole block of text as it is, I'm rather picking lines here and there, not that they are readable, they are not meant to be read, I am just trying to make it look more organic and random. And by the way, when you use your ribbons, just remember you need to make sure that the surface is completely dry, otherwise they are not going to stick. So hopefully you can see here better of how the background looks at the moment. Now I do have some extra paint on my palette. I'm going to dilute the ivory one and I'm going to add some splatters. At this stage I'm not going to overdo it with splatters, I'm going to stop right here. After all, usually at the end I do add extra splatters, so I'm fine with how it looks at the moment. Make sure that all these are dry. And then the next step is to use a sanding block. I'm going over that eyelet at the top because it was covered up completely with paint. Now it's nice and shiny. And then I'm going to go over the volume paste, all that texture. I'm using a sanding block and going over that. It's going to kind of bring it into life. It's going to give it some white details and highlights, while at the same time it's going to be quite subtle. If you want that design, that texture to be very distinct, then you need to use the volume paste with a stencil on top of the background. So first do the acrylic paints and then do the stenciling. Now I want to add a little bit of brown on this tag, and for that I'm using my coffee dye ink with a blending brush. I don't want to overwhelm the tag with brown, I just want to give it just a touch on the edges mainly, and I'm also going to add some splatters with the same color. And now it's time to look for my focal points and how I'm going to create the cluster. This is going to be a fall tag. So I'm using the Woodland collection, and I did use that in a previous project last week, I believe. So as I'm browsing through and checking what I want to use, you can go with mushrooms, you can go with butterflies, you can go with the little creatures. There are many leaves that you can cut out. I did use this one in my album cover that I did last week. So for this one, I decided to go with one of those wreaths, and you can see in the last page there are so many different elements that you can cut out to create clusters. If you want to avoid fuzzy cutting, you can definitely go with the die cuts or the ephemeras. However, for this tag I decided to play with the wooden elements. I love the dimension, I like the look and feel of them, and I'm going to pick the mushroom as well as a tag, a few of the flowers. Actually, I'm going to pop out everything so that I can play and decide how my final composition is going to look like. Once I'm happy, then I'm going to stick everything down. So I'm going to start by mixing different elements to add different textures on my tag, and here I'm using a cheesecloth which I'm going to stick at the very bottom as the base. Now here is one of the most common questions that I get. Why did you use that if you went ahead and covered it completely? Well, the truth is that when I'm working I don't know exactly what I'm going to stick on top. I'm just having fun layer after layer. So you will find out that at the end this cheesecloth is not going to show that much, maybe a few picks here and there. So don't ask me why I did that. I didn't know at this stage what's going to happen on top of it. Now here, to add even more texture, I'm using a piece of corrugated cardstock. Corrugated cardstock and cheesecloth are great to have on hand when you are trying to build up a mixed media cluster because they always add lots of texture. And now finally it's time to put the cluster together. My main focal point is going to be the mushroom, and I'm going to embellish it with the rest of the leaves. I am sticking everything down with my hot glue gun just to make my life easier. And I'm going to combine the wooden shapes along with die cuts. So this flower is actually thick chipboard. Now I want to embellish my cluster even more, so I'm bringing in my decorative chips, and I'm going to use some of these branches. I'm just going to pop them out and tuck them behind my composition. Now you can definitely color this or you can emboss it. I always like to use it as it is. I actually love that neutral color that they have. So this is just thick paper, it is laser cut thick paper, and I'm going to stick it down with my matte glue. Now if you are wondering what I do with those tags, I feel like this is the perfect fall decoration. I absolutely love the color combination. So you can put it on a coffee table in your living room, you can use it to decorate your craft room, or even hand it out as a little gift. All my projects I always like to use a quote or a motivational word. For this project I decided to go with Enchanted. This is one of the tags from the paper pad that I cut out. So I used my scissors all around that tag to make it rough and more distressed. I'm also going to use my coffee dye ink on the edges. And then since I have all that dimension on the rest of the cluster, I need to add dimension on my little word as well. So I'm going to stick it down by using foam tape at the back. Now here you can see I'm debating on where it's going to look better. I'm going to stick it up there. Now at this stage I did add some white splatters, you probably can see them all over the place. I'm also adding some finishing touches with my contour liner, and this is the old gold color. I'm just adding some dots here and there. I always feel like they do add dimension and shine, but at the same time they give that whimsical look and feel on a project. I'm going to finish it off by adding some ribbon, and my mixed media tag is ready. As always, there is a full list of all the supplies that I used down below in the description area. So that was the project for today. I hope that you had fun, that you got inspired, and I'll see you all next time.